Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Nothing to Play podcast, a mediocre podcast about video games, movies, and erotic asphyxiation. As always, it's your boy, Just in Time Carter, and this week, for our guest, we have a returning guest on the podcast. You know him, you love him, he took me to go see the Blue Man Group, Brandon Smith.
This is true. Hello. How are you?
Dude, I'm doing good, how have you been?
I'm good. I've actually been playing some video games lately, so I'm pretty happy right now. I don't often get as much time as I want to play video games, so it's been a good week.
I don't know, have you beaten you were playing the new Star Wars, the Jedi game?
Yeah, Jedi Fallen Order. Yeah, I beat that. It was about 48 hours, I think, of gameplay time for me. So over,
That's pretty long.
3 or 4 days it took me, I think, to get through it. Yeah, it was good. That game, I'm in love with that game. It's awesome. I finished it and I was like, I had that, I hit that funk. You finish a great game that you're in love with, and you're like, what do I do now? How do I follow this? And I was in ultra Star Wars mode because of it. So I was like, fuck, what am I gonna do? I want more Star Wars. And I have a friend that was playing through Fallen Order at the same time, and we were talking about it back and forth and everything. And we both finished it around the same time. He finished it earlier the same day. And I told him I was done, and I was like, man, I just want more Star Wars now. And he's like, well, did you ever play KOTOR 2? And I was like, no. I'm like, I started getting into it once and never got very far and put it down and got busy with other stuff, and it just wasn't grabbing me. And he's like, oh yeah, you should check that out. It's one of the best Star Wars games ever. It's great story and characters. And I was like, oh, maybe I will. And so I reinstalled it from Steam and tried getting into that. I still couldn't get into it, and I was like, I think the window has passed on that game, so it's just aged too much for me. It's just not the kind of game that I can as easily get into anymore. But then I did watch gameplay videos of the main storyline playthrough, light side playthrough for KOTOR 2, and it was pretty interesting. But yeah, now I gotta find something else.
Dude, is there no New Game Plus or anything on?
In Fallen Order, no. You can. There's nothing really new. You can still explore after you finish the story. Like most games, they're load up your last save, and they'll let you just kind of you can't go do the final mission again. It's it's done because you completed the story, but you can explore all the planets that you've been to and try to 100% everything after you beat the ending. You can do that.
Can you max out? Because I know you said there was a skill tree.
Mm-hmm.
Are you able to actually completely max out everything in every part of the skill tree?
Yeah, the skill tree in that game is one of the areas that kind of disappointed me a little bit because there's not really any depth to it. It's just everything, all the abilities that you have, you kind of see them all on one screen. You don't really unlock a lot of them until certain points in the story. So you get a handful of abilities early on, and then after you get to a certain point in the character's actual story progression, then he kind of unlocks a deeper level into the Force, and then more skills become available in the skill tree. And it does that 2 or 3 times until the whole screen is filled with all of the little nodes that you can go unlock and get abilities. But that's it. And it's really easy to just get everything because by the time when I beat the game, there were 2 skills I didn't have yet. And then I went back to 2 of the planets to just try to discover, try to find a couple things that I missed, that I noticed a spot on the map that I could explore that I hadn't got to yet. And so I went back to these 2 planets just to kind of uncover those areas and just see what I could find. And that was enough for me to get enough experience fighting the enemies there to get those last 2 skills. So you can easily max out that skill tree. At least if you're playing the way I did, where I explore a lot, so I'm getting extra experience points because I'm finding all these hidden things. You get experience for that, and I'm just running into more enemies, and I keep respawning enemies every time I save my game and rest. The enemies come back, so I was fighting more enemies than you would need to if you're just trying to mainline it. But yeah, it's pretty easy to learn everything.
Dude, that's cool. I was yeah, and as I said earlier in the podcast too, we went and saw Blue Man Group. I know it was 2 weeks ago now at this point, but
yeah, a week.
But I was waiting to talk about it with Brandon since I knew Brandon was going to come on the podcast, so I didn't bring it up last week.
Sweet.
But it was pretty cool. It was the first time I've gone to see something like that and stuff. It was at the ASU Gamage,
Mm-hmm.
which the setup there is kind of weird, I guess, 'cause it's like really high. Like there's like 2 levels basically. There's like floor level, and then there's like,
and then like the suicide seats.
Yeah, and then like the railing on those seats is like, that's just like a insurance claim waiting to happen.
Well, it's like, it's so vertical. It's like, I'm not afraid of heights, but that place makes me kind of be like, I think I'm a little bit afraid of heights.
Like, I don't think the like lack of railing would necessarily bother me if like there was actually like leg space to walk when someone's sitting down,
Yeah.
and you're trying to like get to your seat like past them.
But you're not, and it's like, and it's just like I said, it's so vertical. It's like one like level, one row of seats. It feels like it's almost directly above the other row, just like slightly back. And so you're like walking to get to your seat, and you're trying to squeeze past people, and you feel like if you just lose your balance a little bit and you like fall over, like if you fell, you would land right on the next row underneath you. And at a certain point, if you're down in that like lowest row of that balcony, if you fell, you would just like fall to your death.
I feel like even if you were higher up, you would just slowly tumble down the other rows until
you just bounce over people's heads until you just fell onto like the floor seats. It's kind of crazy. The acoustics are amazing though, but it's crazy.
Yeah, and it was really cool. It was like a mix of like almost like music mixed with like performance art and stuff,
Yeah.
and they had like some funny moments and some kind of like really cool moments and stuff like that. So it was pretty interesting. It wasn't that long either. It was only like like an hour and a half.
I think so. Yeah. Do you have any favorite moments?
Dude, my favorite moment, like everything, like when people asked me and stuff, because I told them that I went, like, oh, how was it? My favorite moment that I told everybody was where they had like the 2 bowls, and it was like the one was marshmallows, and the one, I'm assuming the other one was marshmallows too. I don't know what the fuck it was.
I've always wondered what those are. Like, are they candies, or is it like, it's got to be like some sort of powdered ball or something?
Yeah, it was something, because like there was 2 of the blue men were on either side of the stage, and like one, they were like tossing marshmallows in each other's mouths from really far across the stage, which was pretty impressive in of itself. Mm-hmm. But then the one dude, and each of them had like a blank canvas, and then the one would sit there and like he caught one in his mouth, and then all of a sudden
he's catching colored balls in his mouth.
Yeah, and then all of a sudden he's like spraying like neon paint like out of his mouth across the canvas, and then the other one on the other side just had, I'm assuming it was just normal like marshmallows or powdered balls or whatever it was, and then he's like trying to do the same thing, and it's just like mushy marshmallow like hits the canvas and like isn't doing anything. And they keep doing that back and forth for a while until the canvas is like pretty much covered in all this neon paint. And then all of a sudden he like picks it up and he's like holding it and like lets go of it, and it's just floating there in the air. And then like
he spins it.
Yeah, he hits it and it just starts spinning in place. And then he like takes a final one and then spits it in the middle and does a spiral design in the middle. And then the other guy, to like for his masterpiece, caught like, it was like 20, like I'd say it was about 20 marshmallows. At least. And they were big too. They weren't like tiny fucking
they're the large, it's like the large marshmallows.
Yeah, they were like s'mores level of marshmallows, and like all of a sudden like he like regurgitated the marshmallows on the canvas into this like mush tower.
Right, because he's been like packing them into his mouth the whole time, like down his throat or whatever. Like I don't know how he could breathe because he's like packing that stuff so deep down.
Yeah, he was like with like 3 fingers, like in between catches and stuff. He's just like sticking them in his mouth to like make more room for marshmallow.
Yeah. So I've seen them 2 times before. The first time I ever saw them was in Vegas, and I was telling you about that show because it was like I was younger and I hadn't been to a lot of shows anyway, of any sort of like, you know, performance art or you know, concerts or whatever. And my family took us to Vegas and we saw all kinds of stuff, and that was like by far my favorite show of that trip. And it's like ever since then I've said it's like one of my favorite, if not my favorite, like show that I had ever been to. It just blew my mind when I saw it the first time. But that was Vegas, and it was much bigger, like bigger stage, just bigger performance in general. You mentioned that like there's like a lot of music to go with like their performance art type stuff, and the comedy. The music in the other shows I've been to was like they have a whole band that's like behind them, and they wear all this neon stuff, and a lot of it's like it's dark and they're like lit up with black lights, so all you see is the neon that they're wearing. They kind of look like skeletons with like bright colors. But they usually have like a couple like full drum sets with drummers and like bassists, guitarists, keyboardists, like maybe a couple people that are just like dancing or whatever. So it's like this really cool, trippy, like, you know, rave thing that's going on in the back with music, and it's like, and they're really rocking out. This show was smaller for whatever reason. I think the stage just didn't have as much space because they only had two guys. They had one drummer and one bassist, and that was it. And they didn't play quite as frequently as like I've seen in previous shows. So that was one thing that was a little different about this one. But I actually went on a little bit of a tangent there. The reason I was bringing up that I've seen them before is I think it was the first show that I saw. They do a lot of the same gigs or the same little acts. They have kind of become like staples for them. And that one with throwing the marshmallows and the colored things is one of them. They do that in like every show, I think. And the first one that I saw, when the guy made the colored thing on the canvas by spraying the stuff out of his mouth that he had been catching, I'm pretty sure I remember him giving that to someone in the audience at the end of that act. I was like, that's so fucking cool.
And disgusting.
And kind of disgusting. But I don't remember if they gave away the marshmallow, like, throat tower, but the colored thing on the canvas was like, I'm pretty sure someone got that, and I thought that was pretty awesome. I got to, like, take pictures with them afterwards as well that time, because when we were, like, leaving, we're, like, walking out. This was at the Luxor in Vegas, and there's, like, a big, long hallway that kind of takes you down to the auditorium, and then you have to walk down that hallway back to get to the rest of the casino. And all three of the Blue Men were standing there in the hall, like as people are walking by, and they still don't talk or anything. That's
cool.
They're
just
like standing there.
Character
Yeah, they're totally like, they never come out of character. They're just like standing there and they're staring at everybody, and they'll like wave at you, and if you want to come over, they'll like go like this and everything. That's like, I always felt like they're sort of like, their persona is supposed to be like they're aliens or something.
Yeah.
Because like they're discovering this world, and like everything makes them so curious. Like you get that theme throughout the show that they try something and like makes a noise, and they're like, they look at each other and like, oh wow, you know, and then they keep playing with it. But yeah, so like we all got to take pictures of them, my whole family, like we all took turns, like, you know, just like putting our arms on their shoulders, and they're like just staring at the camera like they don't know what it is. I got like from that show too, that first show, I got on the shirt that I was wearing, it was a white shirt that just said industrial in black across the chest. And I got a little bit of the Blue Man like paint stuff that like they cover their faces with, whatever. A little bit of it rubbed off onto my shirt and never came off for like, I don't know, like probably 50 or more washings of that shirt. And so like I loved that shirt because I'm like, it's got Blue Man goo on it. And like
Blue Man goo.
Every time I wore that shirt, it reminded me of the show. Yeah,
I got gooed.
I don't think I even have that shirt anymore, but I had it for a long time.
Yeah, because that was like one of my things. Because you told me before too about how like the big finales and stuff, that like the ones you'd seen before, they were like a little more grand and stuff. And I feel like a lot of that was just due to the fact that the Gamage stage area was so much smaller, and the way the venue was set up, that it was kind of hard to do something as like elaborate as they've done in the past. Those finales, I was telling you about them, and I can go through them again here for anybody that's never been to shows. But the first show I went to, the finale that they did there at the Luxor, it's a pretty big auditorium. It's like real deep from front to back. There's a lot of seats. I don't remember, there's probably a balcony, but there's a lot of floor seats for sure, at least. And at the end of the show, all three of the Blue Men jump off the stage or walk down off the stage, and they run past, like down the aisles to the back of the auditorium, so everyone's like turning their head and watching them. And they go up, and there's like I think there were like these big black like curtains or sheets or something that were blocking like what's in the very, very back of the auditorium the whole time. And they pull them down, and there's the biggest rolls of toilet paper you could possibly imagine. They're like just ridiculous, like world record like rolls of toilet paper. I'm talking like probably like 10 or 15 feet in diameter. And they're just like, they just start clawing at him and pulling all this toilet paper off and unrolling it. And as they're unrolling it, it's like piling up on top of the people that are sitting underneath it. And so they're pushing it forward, and then the people start pushing it onto the people in front of them. And the whole thing just goes all the way down the auditorium from back to front, with people pushing just piles and piles of toilet paper forward until it's essentially covering everyone. And then they've got black lights and strobes and like
trippy like techno music playing the whole time, and the blue men like run up to the middle of the auditorium and they stand up on like some of the armrests of people's seats and just start like headbanging and rocking out. It was like the coolest, trippiest thing. It was just like the whole thing just turns into like this wild party that no one was expecting. It's like a flash mob or something at the end of the show, and it was just like so memorable. And that was one of the things that made that like the greatest show that I had ever seen at the time, at least. And then the second show I saw was in Tucson. And it was a slightly bigger auditorium than where you and I saw it. And they were able to do something where they had these gigantic, again, like probably 10, 15 foot diameter, but these were spheres, like big, like inflated balls that had some sort of like a bright LED or something, like maybe suspended in the middle of them, because they would light up, they would glow different colors, like big Christmas ornaments or something. So like they'd all be like green, and then they'd fade to blue, and then purple, and then red, and they just kept changing. And they rolled them out from behind the stage, and the blue men were like kind of pushing them up and down for a while, like bouncing them and then juggling them back and forth by like just pushing them from one side of the stage to the other, and they kind of float like they've got like some, you know, maybe helium or something in them. And then like, and they're playing this song, and then like the song gets to this big like crescendo, and they just turn toward the audience and they just shove the balloons out over the audience, and then the audience is like just pushing them around like they're beach balls. It's just bouncing like all over the people in the auditorium, and like they keep changing colors, and this like again strobe lights and just craziness, and the music's just going nuts. It's just like crazy. Like you never see anything like that. So yeah, I was a little bummed that they weren't able to do something like that when you and I saw them. I was really hoping that they would, because I was like, Justin's gonna be blown away at the finale. And then all they did was like they had these like green sheets of paper that they had handed out to everybody in the programs, which I had thrown away because the program's just full of a bunch of advertisements. I was like, what is this? And I tossed it. But like everybody that still had the program with them had this green sheet of paper, and they like hold up the green sheet of paper on the stage, like they pull it out of one of the programs on the stage, like to show you. They're like, hey, this green sheet right here, like grab this, and they're just like pantomiming it, and then they tear it, and then they turn it, and then they tear it again, and they like fold it over on itself, and then they tear it again in like several pieces, so it's like 8 pieces of paper or something, and then they just throw it up in the air. And so then everybody does that, so there's all this like green sheets of paper just like floating down in the air like confetti, and then they blast confetti from the stage out over everybody that's sitting down below. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, but not,
I know Brandon talked it up like the entire time, and then he's like, afterwards, he's like, I'm so sorry. He's like, it was so much cooler. I felt bad for whoever the fuck had to clean up after, because like you looked on the floor, there's confetti, shredded paper, like
marshmallows,
marshmallows, and like just shit that was like on the stage that they like kicked off the stage.
Golf balls?
Yeah, they got like
no, ping pong balls. I think it was ping pong balls. Like there's that one part of the show where like they pull a lever, and just like this massive amount of ping pong balls just drops down and just and like rolls all over the stage and goes everywhere. I'm like, dude.
Yeah, dude, it looked like a fucking like tornado hit like a party city or something. It was just all over the floor, and I was like, dude, like it's like in the stands and shit everywhere too. I'm like, oh man, that's a messy performance.
Yeah, for sure.
Dude, that reminds me though of like one of my favorite like concerts I ever went to was A Day to Remember, and at one point, the lead singer, like, in the middle of one of their songs, he's still singing and stuff, like, goes behind the curtain, and he's still singing, and he comes out, and he's in one of those, like, giant inflatable balls, and he's, like, still singing, he's, like, running out, like, on top of the crowd, and stuff, and then the crowd divided into 2 sides, and we're tossing him back and forth, while he's still singing, he's, like, in the ball, like, flopping around, and, like, they had toilet paper and stuff, and, like, they were streaming it. It was, like, an indoor venue at the Marquee, and so there's, like, pipes and shit, and so people were trying to stream it, like, over the pipes. It was, like, everywhere.
Wow.
It was, like, nuts, and, yeah, they were, like, kicking, like, open water bottles at people, like, off the stage and stuff, so it was, like, everyone was, like, getting wet and stuff, like, in the front.
That does sound cool.
So that was a lot of, I was like, speaking of Star Wars too, I was like, have you been watching Mandalorian?
Hell yeah.
Did you watch the new episode?
Awesome. Yeah, all 3.
Yes,
3 so
I was like, the first episode, I was like, alright, you got me. And then the second episode, like, I don't know, had some like, it was kind of dragged. I was kind of like, I was like, I don't know. And then third episode, I'm like, alright, you boys won me back.
Yeah.
Had that like John Wick like coming after him and stuff. I was like, yes.
fucking gun that he has. Like, are we spoiling stuff? Are we?
Yeah, I don't
are we
care.
talking
Like,
spoilery?
yeah.
Okay, fuck these people.
Yeah, spoilers for Mandalorian if you aren't up to date.
Shut this off right now. Dude, yeah, he's like, I'm totally just jumping over to the weapon that he has, but like, he fucking vaporizes people. Just vaporizes them. They're gone. I'm like, what? Every time he shoots someone, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna see a part of their body still, and it's like, poof, and it's just like, it's like some sparks, and there's nothing there. I'm like, wow.
Well, and that's what's funny is this the same gun he's had. It's just you've only seen him like electrocute people with it. That's
it does all
he's
kinds
done.
of things.
And then in this one, it went all fucking Predator status, and
he did that to the Jawas too. He vaporized some of the Jawas. I was like, shit, and then he just started doing it on like other dudes. I'm like, fuck.
I was like, and then he got his like full suit of armor and looks all chrome and smexy now.
Yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it's so good. It's so good. It's like when it first came out, I heard or saw like some little blips about people talking about it, saying it's like a Western in space, and I'm like, yeah, it really is in some ways. It kind of reminds you of that this guy sort of just like a renegade. You know, he's a bounty hunter, literally, obviously, and that's very much like what a lot of Westerns were. Is like some dude just like going collecting bounties, going to the saloon and getting information, whatever. And that's what this guy does. He goes to the cantina, he picks up his jobs. You know, he's like, what you got for me? You know, yeah, it's so good. I can't say enough good things about it. The music is super awesome too. I'm just like, I really get it. Like, this is one of those shows where like from beginning to end, I'm like just glued to it. I'm like leaning forward, and I'm just like super just entranced by it, because like it's so well crafted and well like directed and delivered and everything, that like I said, like the music, the acting, the pacing, like all of it is so good. I know some people complain like it's a little short. They're like, oh, these are like, 35-40 minute episodes, and they have a little recap at the beginning, and then they have like the credits are part of that time too, so you're getting like a little bit less than that of actual like story. But I'm like, it still feels like just enough. I always want more, but yeah, it's so good.
That's right. I had to look it up because I wanted to make sure I was quoting real facts, because it's going to be 8 episodes long.
Oh, is that it? I thought it was 10.
No, they said 8, and it says that each episode of The Mandalorian, like, budget was around $12.5 million. Wow. And that they said that it was reported, though, that the series cost about $15 million an episode. So it's kind of like they like went a little over budget, I guess. But they said that it's still less expensive than the Marvel shows that are in development. And I'm assuming a lot of that's probably due to casting. Like, having to, like, pay for Marvel, like, big screens.
Yeah.
Like, supposedly Robert Downey Jr. and stuff is, like, and doing, like, I don't think he's going to be, I don't think he's going to be in it, but I think, like, he's going to narrate,
I heard
like,
he was
one of
doing
the episodes.
I heard he was supposed to be potentially coming back to do the voice of maybe Iron Man for the What If series, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, like, that alone is going to cost you shelling out. But yeah, no, Disney has the money. It's like, why not fucking ball out and shell out money to make it look, because it looks good, and it's crazy really because it's like, a lot of it, I mean, there's of course CG and stuff in it,
practical
but a lot of it, I'd say like 80% of it is probably practical effects, like the creatures and stuff. It's all makeup and costume, and it's like, it reminds me a lot of like more like a modern version of like the original trilogy. And stuff.
Exactly. Like that's well stated, because I was gonna say, like, that's one of my favorite things about this show is that it feels like it's really capturing the spirit of the original Star Wars like trilogy, but again, like, it doesn't feel old. It's like, it's modern. It's more up to date. It's more polished. It's real tight. Just the way that, like I said, it's directed and it's acted and everything. But yeah, it still fits in that older, grittier Star Wars universe really, really well.
Yeah, it feels like it takes place like in that world after the fall of the Empire and stuff.
Yeah, you see like, some of these creatures that you saw in the older movies. Like, there's the one, I can never remember what it's called, the one that's like that sits there in like Jabba's palace. It's like scrawny looking thing with the long ears.
Yeah, in
like,
the cage. Yeah, he's like
just laughs all crazy,
shaking all crazy.
Yeah, it just looks like a fucking tweaker. Yeah, the first episode of The Mandalorian, there's one of them in a cage, and it's like freaking out, and they're frying another one. of the same creature. They're like cooking it on a spit in front of it, and it's like, ah! And I was like, oh my god, that's horrible, but like kind of awesome at the same time. That like they managed to take that character, that puppet, and put it in this, and it like fits and like makes sense and everything. It was pretty funny.
But yeah, so that's been real. I was like, the other thing I've been watching it like work and stuff is I'm on like season 4 of The Simpsons.
Oh wow!
I've been working my way through. I started with
God.
season 1, and I've just been slowly working my way through.
What are there, like 30 something by now?
But I think they only have right now up to, I want to say season like 22 or something like that on Disney Plus. But
so insane. It's on Disney?
Yeah.
The Simpsons, really?
It's on Disney Plus. It's because
they own that?
It's Fox.
Oh, because
Disney owns Fox.
They bought Fox.
And
I forgot about that.
But what's crazy is because like for Disney Plus, there's like a lot of things that like for instance, like In-Game is on there, but Infinity War, the first part isn't because it's on Netflix.
Oh,
so there's a lot of
like a licensing thing for it.
There's like a lot of things where it's like licenses are having to wait for them to expire and stuff. So like there's a lot of stuff that's like not on there because it's on Netflix or whatever right now.
You know what I don't know, and tell me if you've heard anything about. Has there been any like chatter about whether now that Disney owns them, now that Disney owns Marvel, are we gonna get any of those shows like Daredevil or Luke Cage or anything that they canceled from Netflix?
I really hope so.
I hope so too, especially Daredevil. Daredevil was amazing.
Yeah, I haven't heard one way or the other, but it would make sense to me. Like, I don't know why they wouldn't. I mean, that was like, I feel like that was like, especially like I know Daredevil and like Punisher was like really popular and stuff too. I know like Immortal Iron Fist got like a lot of hate.
Second season was a lot better though.
Yeah, and like, but I know like Luke Cage and like Jessica Jones, like those weren't, I feel like, as popular as Daredevil and like Punisher were and stuff. But I don't see why they wouldn't just like kind of transfer.
There's supposed to be, I think, one more season of Jessica Jones on Netflix. I don't think that one was canceled yet.
Okay.
I think I heard that there's a third season that's still coming, but that's probably the last one for the foreseeable future, at least for Netflix.
Yeah, it might have just been like under license or something that they're having.
That first season of Jessica Jones, I thought was like practically a masterpiece.
So good, yeah. I love Redgrave, right?
Kilgrave.
Kilgrave.
Yeah. David Tennant's character.
Yeah.
Oh, he's so
such
good.
a dick.
He's so good. And like the second season, I was just like, what are they gonna do to top that? Because and I don't feel like they did, but I still enjoyed it. But yeah, that first season, I just like he was just a presence that was just constantly like so like big, you know.
Yeah, no,
he's such a great actor.
Yeah, he really did. I was like, but what was funny too was like when like watching like older episodes of The Simpsons and stuff, I was like, dude, there's no way like the stuff that they got away with in like the early 90s that would fly.
There's like so much offensive stuff in cartoons back then.
Well, yeah, and it's not even like, it's just like, was beyond like saying fucking like, just like, I mean, they say like ass and like shit and like, I mean, Bart's is
about. Did they say shit?
I don't know about shit, but I know. But they said something I was just kind of like, wow. Or like I couldn't believe that they got away with it. But like even just beyond that, like just like showing like, I don't know, like Bart with a gun or like different, his like fantasies about like ruining the school and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, with all the school shootings and
stuff. Or Homer
like
choking the crap out of him. Like just like he's just abusing his child. He's practically beating him in like every other episode. Like,
right.
I don't think that would go over as well now.
But
maybe on Comedy Central.
But yeah, I was like surprised. I was like, man, I miss the more lenient like FCC like of the 90s.
Speaking of cartoons, I watched through Avatar Last Airbender series again. It was like the third time I've watched it, maybe fourth. I love that. That show's still amazing every time. You watch those, right?
Believe it or not, I've seen bits and pieces, but I've never seen an episode of that. Korra, like I've never watched it.
Yeah, I'm rewatching Korra right now because after you watch Avatar, it's like, oh, I gotta watch Korra now. So I'm in season 2 of Korra. I love that show too. They're both like I can't decide which one I like more, honestly. I think maybe Avatar, but like they're really kind of different. They just have like a different feel. It's a different time period that each one takes place in because it's like one generation later for Korra. So everything feels a little different, and they were able to do some things that were like cooler and more interesting in that one, and like bigger, like more epic. But the original show, like, you know, it had like this certain charm to it that wasn't in the next one as well. So yeah, they're different, but I love those. There's more Star Wars stuff that I can talk about. I'm like I said, I'm in Star Wars mode right now, so like...
Oh yeah, wait, didn't you play that VR Star Wars one?
Yes, so that was the next thing I was going to talk about. So yeah, so I played through Fallen Order, and I watched through like the whole storyline of KOTOR 2, and I feel like I'm probably going to end up rewatching like all the movies before the next one comes out, which is like in a month. And then actually I should probably start on that soon. Yeah, there's a lot of movies now.
We just rewatched like the original trilogy yesterday. We sat there and went through New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi.
Nice. Ooh, can I say here for all the world to hear that Episode 1 is one of my favorite Star Wars movies of all time?
Is it really?
I'm dead serious. Yeah. And I love telling people because they always go, "You're shitting me." But no.
Well, yeah, because I'm like, I don't know. I mean,
everyone's like, the prequels suck. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of flaws. Fewer in the first one, I think, than there are in like this. Like the second one Episode 2 is my least favorite of the entire series.
I will agree with you. Yeah. The Episode 2
it's hard to watch now.
Is also my least favorite.
It's hard to watch now. But Episode 1, part of it, nostalgia is always a factor. That's always going to be a factor. And I think when I explain like sort of my story, my history with Episode 1, some people kind of understand a little bit more. But like I legitimately do think that it's a very good movie. You know, it's got its parts that, yeah, you know, love it or hate it, whatever. Like Jar Jar Binks, like whatever, take him or leave him, but like he's not the entire movie as much as people want to like pretend like he is. He's not. But and there's other stuff that just more than makes up for him, like Darth Maul. The Darth Maul fight is still just amazing.
Is true.
But so my history with Episode 1 is I'll try to keep this brief. It was I want to say my junior year of high school when that movie came out. It was like 99 or something, I think, when Episode 1 came out. And so it was releasing, they were doing a midnight premiere. This is like before, like for the younger listeners out there, if there are any, they didn't used to release movies like the day before at 7, when you could just leisurely like reserve your seats ahead of time and leisurely walk up 5 minutes before the movie and casually get your popcorn and your drink and walk in and get your comfortable seat with the recliner. They didn't do that shit back then. So here's the way it worked. They had a midnight release at midnight, or at technically I think 12:01, because the studios wouldn't allow you to release it before the actual calendar day, right? So at 12:01 midnight, essentially, you could watch it like first thing in that day. So the day before that, and this was like, it was a school day for me. I want to say it released on probably like the release day itself was at like Thursday or Friday maybe. And so whatever day it was before that, I went like straight from school. I had a friend, I wasn't driving yet, but I had a friend who had a car, and he drove me and a few other people like home. And on the way home, he said, "Hey, we're going to go see Star Wars." And I was planning to anyway. I wanted to go see it. He's like, "Why don't I drop you off and you hold our place in line?" And I don't know, people didn't care as much about people holding places in line back then either, because I did that for like, it was like 6 people that I was like holding a spot for. So he dropped me off at the theater to hold a spot for them. They were going home. They were going to go do other stuff, pick up other people, and they were going to come back. And like, they didn't come back for hours and hours. It was like evening by the time they came back. So I was there from like, I don't remember exactly what time, like 2 in the afternoon or something like that, until midnight, whatever 11 hours is, because that's how long I was there. Like that's an important key point in my story, is that I was there for 11 hours. And I had a really good spot in the line too. Like I was probably, if I had to guess, like the 20th person there. So I was a lock. I was
It's
guaranteed.
Even crazier that there's 19 other people
right?
who waited even longer.
That long? Yeah. There were people there. I don't know what time the first person got there, but anyway, I think the first person was a kid too, like a young kid. But yeah, so there were a bunch of other people, and so I just camped out. I'm sitting there, and like the guy that was next to me was really cool. Like, he had like a blanket that he brought with him, and he let me just like camp out on the blanket with him, so I wasn't just on the sidewalk. And we were just talking, and he was like, I found out he was from like the same area of California that I was from, where he grew up, and I was like, oh, that's awesome. So we're just like, getting to know each other, and that was cool. Just passed the time, and I'm like listening to my headphones on my I think my Walkman probably at the time with my cassette player, I'm
Star-Lord status over here.
I'm listening to the same movie soundtrack over and over or something. Anyway. So I'm there forever, and here's where it gets shitty. What time was it? It was probably like at least 3 hours or 4 hours before midnight. At least 3 hours. Some dumbass in the front yells, "They're selling tickets!" And everybody just jumped up from where they were and rushed the box office. Like, there were people, the line was going, this was an outdoor, like, not an outdoor movie theater, but this is like one of those movie theaters where, like, it's not inside of a mall. Mm-hmm. So we're like out, there's like a parking lot, and we're just like lined up against the wall, and like the sun's in our face as it's going down and stuff. And like people were lined up around this building, the whole building, like people just lined up around it. And this guy yells, "They're selling tickets." And in the time I just shook the mic, I'm sorry. In the time it took me to grab my backpack, throw my like headphones and shit inside, put it on my back, stand up, and like try to like run to the box office. In that time, all these people that were lined up around the corner were just running like people in like full like Jedi robes, just like beards, like sprinting, across the parking lot. And all these people, so many people got in front of me that like it was just this huge crowd. There was no more line anymore. It was just like 8 people wide by forever back, just crowd. It wasn't a line, it was just a crowd at that point. The guy that was sitting next to me, who was like one space ahead of me in line that I was talking to the whole time, in that time it took me to grab my stuff, he just said fuck his blanket and he just like took off. And so he got like probably 10 feet, 15 feet ahead of me between all these people. And so, but there were a lot of people in front of him too. And so we're just standing there. And so for the last like 3 or 4 hours of being in line, no one wants to sit down because people scooch in front of them. No one wants to try to like form a line because people just like scooch in front of them. So we're standing there, standing up for hours like sardines, just squished against each other. And every once in a while, someone kind of like shoulders and wiggles their way in front of somebody else. And so the whole thing's just kind of like shifting the whole time. And people are like taking people's places. And like, no one's like, it's like, there's no fights or anything, which amazes me. But like, everyone's just standing there pissed off. Just like, and no one's like, who the fuck said that? Everyone's just like, what the fuck is going on? But like, we know that there's like nothing we can do about it. Cause like no one's just gonna like be like, okay, let's all get back in line. So the worst part is what happened was, so my friends show up and everything and they're like, hey, and I'm like, hi, I'm right here. And then they're just like standing on the edge of the crowd and like hoping to get in because they can't even get to me. And then, so they finally open the doors and they start selling tickets and they're going one at a time and they're working their way through this like crowd of people. Everyone's making their way to the box office. And I get all the way up to the trash can right next to the window. And the guy that was right in front of me got the last ticket. So I didn't even get in after 11 hours of waiting to see episode 1. So obviously I was pissed. So anyway, here's the thing. So because of that, I told you 11 hours was important. Because I waited in line to see Star Wars Episode 1 for 11 hours and did not get in, I swore, and I was like, this is just the kind of person I was when I was younger. I was like, I hold grudges, I keep promises, whatever. I swore that I would see that movie 11 times in the theater to make up for the 11 hours that I waited in line to see it once. And I did. So I've seen that movie. I've seen that one more than any other Star Wars movie now. And so that I think that's a factor. I know that was a really long story. I'm sorry.
I was like, I was just thought it was funnier that you taught them a lesson by paying to see the movie.
More money.
Yeah, but like,
not necessarily all at that theater though, but
like, I'll show you. I'll see this movie so many times.
It's not even like I was trying to get back at the theater or anything, and it's not like, well, it was kind of their fault because they should have like policed their line
or had my thing was
the thing. They didn't do that at the time. Now you go to like, first of all, this doesn't happen anymore because there's advanced tickets. You get your tickets, everything's all taken care of ahead of time. But like after that incident with that movie, that particular theater got smart, and like whenever a big movie would come out at that theater and they'd have people starting to line up early, they'd go out and they'd give people a number.
Well, that's what blew me away too when you said you were in line but you didn't even have tickets yet.
Yeah, because you couldn't buy tickets ahead of time back then. It didn't happen. I know you're like a young whippersnapper.
Well, yeah, that's because I'm like thinking, because I'm like,
you're like, what do you mean?
Because I went to, because I know for like, because yeah, I was like, when that movie came out, I was like 9.
Right. Yeah.
But because I remember I went to the midnight for episode 3.
Okay.
But we had advanced tickets. We already had our tickets, but it was one of those things, again, you still had to wait in line. There was no designated seats. There was no
reserved seats, but you could usually buy ahead of time because they had Fandango by then. But yeah, like 1999, I don't think any of that shit was around then.
Well, yeah.
And I was seeing it at a smaller theater, too. This wasn't like a Century Theaters or a Cinemark or a Harkins or something like that. Like, the first two I mentioned are probably like unknown to most people. But yeah, it's not like a big like AMC or Harkins where, they offer all this cool like, options for buying your tickets. This was the what's it called? This is the Uptown 3 Theater in Sierra Vista, Arizona, which like, it's just like, it was already becoming like, I don't want to like call it the butthole theater, but it was like becoming like the cheap theater for the town already at that point. And they like got every once in a while, they got one big movie, and that was the big movie that they got. But they didn't do like, you couldn't, like, they didn't have a website. You couldn't go online and buy tickets. You couldn't buy them in advance because they wouldn't sell them in advance back then. Like, I don't know. It's just a different time.
Yeah, well, because like what was funny too was I don't even think Fandango was around. It might have been like new, but I was like, for like our midnight showing and stuff, we had to go to the theater either the day before or days in advance and physically go up to the box and buy the tickets for that day, and then come back days later for the actual movie.
I feel like that was still a thing until like pretty recently, but now, thankfully, like
everything's online changed. And like designated seats and
Yeah,
I remember when they first initiated it, I'm like, dude, that's stupid. You could show up wherever, and it's like, even if you show up super early, you can't get the seat you want because someone already bought. I was like, that's dumb. And then now that I'm older, I'm like, no. I was like,
I don't have time for this shit.
Yeah, I was like, I don't have time to fucking show up like an hour and a half before a movie starts to like fucking try and like get a good seat.
I kind of missed that though. Like there was something exciting. Like the last big huge movie premiere I did where I had to just wait in line and I don't think we had advanced tickets because why would we wait in line if we did? Was the final Harry Potter movie. Me and PJ went out for that and we're like all dressed up. He's wearing like all Slytherin and I wore like this Hufflepuff outfit because I was like, no one's going to be wearing Hufflepuff. So I was all like decked out in that and it was like a lot of fun. Like everyone's all dressed up in their wizard robes and we're all like, playing like Harry Potter games on our phones and stuff and just waiting out in line forever. And it's exciting, like, because the whole crowd is like, everybody is like an Uber fan. The people that are willing to wait out in line for hours and hours and hours are like so dedicated that like feels like you're like, oh, these are my people,
When did that movie come out? When did the final, do you
Harry
remember?
Potter?
With the set part 2.
I don't remember what year, but I was already living up here, so it was after 2010.
Okay.
I don't remember exactly when, though.
Did that come out before The Dark Knight Rises? Do you know? I don't even remember.
Probably.
Because I was going to say, I think... Because then I was trying to remember what was the last midnight movie I went to, and you're right. It was either the second part of the final Harry Potter, or it was The Dark Knight Rises, because those were the last two
I've done
that.
some like midnight or really late movie like first showing premieres since then, but had advanced tickets, so I could just walk up. Like PJ and I have done that. Like PJ and I usually try to go to all the Star Wars movies like when they first come out, like the earliest showing that we can manage to get tickets to. But we just walk up, 15 minutes ahead of time, and like we just meet in the parking lot and walk in. It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess this is it then. Like it just doesn't have the same like level of excitement. So I do miss that, and like I would always bring like my light up lightsaber and everything, like the toy one that I got like forever ago from episode 2 that like, fling it and it like extends and whatever. And I would always bring that, and I still do, like to a premiere. I always bring it to a new Star Wars movie, and I'm feeling like increasingly silly about it, but I still do it. I like clip it onto my belt loop and walk in with my lightsaber, and I see some people that still do it. And like if I go to the very, very, very first showing, it's more likely that other people have lightsabers and they're wearing robes and they're wearing costumes.
Like the third week.
Yeah.
There's this fucking geezer with the goddamn.
But like I went one night on. It was like the second show on the first night. This was for like episode 8, the last one.
Mm-hmm.
PJ and I went to that one, but we couldn't quite get tickets to the very first show. So we got tickets to the second one on the same night. So we're showing up and people are walking out, and I'm seeing people walking out with like lightsabers and robes and stuff like that. But like our actual showing, there was a lot less of that, and I was like, oh man, I'm like, this just isn't the same. Like
these aren't my people.
There's a few of my people, but where did the rest of my people go?
That first showing.
The first showing, yeah.
That's like one of my for the Dark Knight Rises. I remember like because like me, Megan, like a bunch of my friends from high school, we all went. There was like 10 or 12 of us that we were all going. We were all in line like waiting. And when we were in the because they like let you in like early, so it's like you were still sitting even when you're in your seats. You're still sitting like an hour plus waiting for the movie.
I like when they actually do that though. It's like really nice. Like, oh, thank you for letting us sit down instead of being on the sidewalk for the last 2 hours or whatever.
And I remember we were in there because like the theater that we go to is the AMC 30 and stuff. And even though I sneak food into there now. I think originally, like, maybe they'll just let you, because they used to let, if you had food from around that area, because there's, like, a Panda Express, Chipotle, Chick-fil-A, whatever, like, you could just straight up be holding it, and they would just let you bring it in.
Wait a minute. You sneak food into the theater?
Yeah.
Justin?
I'm going to hell, I know. I'm a piece of shit. I'll sneak, like, Jimmy John's, like, me and Megan will load up, like, 2 entree, like, Panda Express in her purse and have this, like, full fucking meal.
Like a full styrofoam tray.
Yeah. I'll be, like, eating Jimmy John's during the trailers, like, the wrapper and shit, and I'm sure people are, like, looking at me like, dude, who the fuck's this guy? But, we went...
It's always funny when you're in the theater and you hear, like, from someone, like, opening a can of soda, you're like, where did you get that? Yeah. You didn't buy that here.
But we went to the Dark Knight Rises, and my fucking friend Shane straight up ordered a pizza from Pizza Hut, and they delivered it to the theater.
Inside the theater?
He called and ordered it from inside the theater when we were in the theater, and then he was like, oh, pizza's here. And, like, went out and, like, opened...
They're, like, over by, like, where they take your tickets? And
he told them... He gave them special instructions to come to the exit-only doors.
Oh, my God.
And he opened the door, and it was like, thanks.
Oh, man.
And so he brought in this full fucking pizza. So we had, like, pepperoni. It was some Dark Knight special, like, pepperoni and sausage, whatever, pizza. So we were all eating pizza in the fucking theater.
Next level. That's next level right there.
Yeah, that was, like...
I never crossed my mind to do that.
Yeah, that was like literally like that's one of my favorite like next level fucking stories of.
That's just fucking funny.
Entire pizza.
Yeah. So I'm sorry, I got sidetracked with my storytelling of Star Wars Episode 1, which is amazing. But yeah, VR. I have a Vader Immortal on my Oculus Quest that I got a while ago. So yeah, I finally played the final chapter of that. So there's 3 episodes of Vader Immortal. It's VR only. I believe it's only available on the Oculus Quest, the wireless one that I have. And so the first 2 episodes, the first episode came out a while ago, I don't know, months ago, before I got the Quest. And I played that one right away when I got it. I was looking forward to checking that out, and it was really cool. The first episode you learn how to use a lightsaber. That's basically like the whole thing about the first one is you get a lightsaber, and there's like a training dojo that you can do that's separate from the story mode. It's just like it's like training mode, or practice mode or whatever. So you like grab a lightsaber, and there's a training droid that comes and attacks you with like a vibro staff, and there's the little like training droids that are like an orb, that like Luke trained with on the Millennium Falcon in Episode 4, that just like shoot blaster bolts at you, and you just have to deflect them back. So you're fighting those things. It's those and some like floating training droids that have like arms that like swing at you with vibro staffs. So that's the training mode or training dojo, and then the story mode itself, you get a lightsaber, and there's sections where you're deflecting blaster bolts from stormtroopers, and there's parts where you're like defending yourself from droids that have weapons like that as well. And then episode 2, I'm not sure when that came out, because that was already available around the time that I got my Quest as well. I think it had just released, so I got the first 2 episodes like back to back and played through them pretty close together. The second one introduces force powers, and it's super fun because like you've got the lightsaber in one hand, but you with your free hand, like at any time, as long as there's something in the environment that like is susceptible to be like pushed or pulled with the force, you can like reach out and you see it glow, and you like squeeze like the grip trigger on the Oculus Quest. It's like having a trigger button that you like hit with like your middle finger, like you're squeezing your like against your palm almost. So it feels like you're gripping it. It's a pretty cool way to do it. So you like squeeze, and it like grabs the thing, and you can like lift rocks up in the air, and you can pull them towards you by pulling your hand back, and you can push them away from you by pushing your hand forward. And if you push like hard and then release at the end of the push, it like flings it forward. And so you can grab enemies and like fling them, and you can grab rocks and throw them at things, and like all kinds of cool stuff, like while you're like swinging your lightsaber around. So that's pretty cool. And then episode 3 just hit, like it was like the day after I finished Fallen Order. Episode 3 of Vader Immortal on the VR came out, and I was like, yes, I get to do more Star Wars. So I played through that. And I'm trying to think if they introduced anything. I don't think they really introduced any new mechanics in that one, but it's kind of like just more of doing what they taught you in like the previous 2. So now it's like, okay, you've got a lightsaber, the culmination.
You learned, put it all to use in this final episode.
So you're just doing more of it. It's like, okay, now you're fighting all these guys, and you're like force pushing and pulling while you're swinging your lightsaber. You're protecting yourself from 2 different sides at the same time. Like it was really cool. And the story is like really interesting. It's brief. Like I'll say that. Each chapter, each episode, it took me like about 35 to 45 minutes to get, so it's maybe 40 minutes average for each episode, individually. So they're like bite-sized little games, little story pieces. But the story's interesting. Like it takes place on the planet Mustafar, where Vader like became Vader, essentially, where Obi-Wan hacked him up. And like you see in like, if you've seen Rogue One, he's still hanging out on Mustafar, like after that, like all the way up until probably like the Death Star was ready for him to like move in or whatever. He's hanging out on Mustafar. It's like he's got this like castle there basically that he just like stays in, or that's like his home base or whatever. So this game takes place like and this is canon, by the way. I looked it up. Like this game and Jedi Fallen Order. The story that's in those games is considered official canon now, according to Disney and whatnot. So yeah, if you play Vader Immortal, like the events that happen here, it's like technically that happened in the storyline apparently. Yeah, you're on Mustafar. This takes place, takes place sometime between episodes 3 and 4. I'm pretty sure that it's before 4. I think it would have to be if Vader's on Mustafar. But anyway, yeah, so you're on Mustafar, Vader's on Mustafar, and he's trying to basically, there's like some ruins of like some ancient civilization that's on Mustafar that he's like uncovered, and he's trying to get access to this like this power source, this thing that can potentially bring back the dead. I'll say that. So he's trying to find a way to potentially like bring back the dead or get control over like, you know, life itself or like immortality or whatever. Like kind of the same stuff that was talked about between him and the Emperor in episode 3, where he's like, yes, there is a way to, you know, prevent people from dying or whatever. Like Vader's like still obsessed with that. And so he's like trying to hunt down this thing that can like supposedly get him what he wants, and he wants to use you to do it. And it's interesting. It's really interesting. So I had a lot of fun with it. And by the way, I recorded, for anybody who doesn't have VR or doesn't have an Oculus Quest specifically and doesn't plan to but wants to check out the story of those games. I'm sure other people have put them up on YouTube as well, but I recorded myself playing through all 3 chapters, and I put those up on YouTube, so I can give you like a link to that.
Nice, yeah. For sure. I was like, is it did EA make it?
I don't think
or did
EA
they
was behind
license
this one.
They just licensed the rights out?
Well, LucasArts licenses the rights to the Star Wars properties to EA, don't they? To make their games. So I think this is like whoever's in complete control ultimately of the Star Wars franchise. There's LucasArts or Lucasfilm or something. I'm not sure exactly who's behind it all, but whoever, you know, I'm not sure who exactly signs the checks or signs on the dotted line, but they, I guess, licensed it to whoever made the VR game. I'm trying to think who.
That's crazy, because I thought EA was the only one that they have exclusive rights to Star Wars until whatever 2022 or something, because of whatever contract they're in.
Yeah, I feel like I'd heard something like that too. Maybe this is different because it's VR, and maybe EA's not really into VR yet.
Like that's like a loophole in the
system.
Loophole? Yeah. VR doesn't count.
Yeah, I'm trying to think who developed this game. I know that like in the credits in the beginning it says Oculus Studios, but that's just like one facet of it. I'm not sure, like that's probably not who actually developed it.
What's it called again?
Vader Immortal is the VR series. Yeah, so I haven't played as much of my VR recently because, like I was telling you before we started recording, I'm on vacation right now from work. I had a bunch of days to take off, so I decided to take them off around like Thanksgiving. So I've already got like the days off there, and I added like a bunch of other PTO days. So I've got like a couple weeks that I've just been like chilling and playing games and trying to catch up on stuff lately. So there's been a bunch of games I've wanted to play before I even got my VR set. So I'm trying to catch up on them now. Like there's Jedi Fallen Order, which was new that just came out. I'm probably gonna get into The Witcher 3 finally. Did you ever play that?
Megan played it some. It's one of those things where I totally want to play it. I just had I'll probably pick it up on the Switch at some point too, just because I know it's on the Switch and that's pretty much. But we have it on the PlayStation, and Megan sunk probably like at least 30 hours. Into it already.
Yeah, I've heard so many good things about it, and I'm like, it's been on my radar for a long time. I bought it on a sale like forever ago on Steam and just never played it. And I finally I'm one of those people where I'm like, oh, it's the third one, so I should play the first one and the second one first. But I've had so many people tell me, no, don't even bother with the first two. The third one is like way, way better. You don't need those ones. But me just wanting to be a completionist anyway, I at least had to compromise by watching the gameplay like videos that people put on YouTube of the first two. So I watched through those, which is kind of like a background watch because I really wasn't getting that like engaged with the story from the first two. So I'm hopeful that the third one is as good as everyone says. But I'm ready to play it now finally. So I think I might be doing that today.
Yeah, it says the developer is ILMX Lab.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah, I remember seeing that now in the credits. Yeah, I never heard of them before. They might just do VR. I don't know. But it's a really good looking game. Like that's the thing. Like with VR, you know, I think some people's experience with VR has only been playing like the little gimmicky games, you know, where you're just like, you know, you're just running around and playing with things in a VR space, and that doesn't really give you like an idea of what VR is capable of. But Vader Immortal, I thought was pretty impressive because you're not only, you know, getting to swing around a lightsaber and actually interact with your environment in like a lot of interesting ways with the Force, but you're also like traversing around and like you're like climbing ladders and like crawling across like ledges and stuff by like grabbing things with your hand, and literally like you feel like you're like climbing and moving around and stuff in this space. It's pretty cool. And it's really polished. It looks really, really, really good. The first time in episode 1 of this game, you get like basically captured and like on Mustafar, and Vader shows up in like the cell where they're holding you. Like the door opens up and he's like way at the end of the hall, and like the music like changes, and when the door opens and you just see his like figure standing there, it's like, oh shit, Vader's here. And he starts walking up, and like as many Star Wars movies as I've seen, and as much as I know that Vader is supposed to be an imposing character, and even when I was a kid I was like, oh man, it's Vader and he's scary and stuff like that, I still wasn't anticipating the feeling of having Vader walk up to me in VR and stand right in front of me and me go, oh shit, he is imposing. Like, he's kind of tall. I don't know how tall Vader's supposed to be, but I think he's like at least, he's like well over 6 feet or something.
Oh yeah, I think he's probably like close. I'd say he's probably close to like
6'5",
yeah, I'd say like 6'5".
Yeah. So like I'm standing there, and I think the height of your character in VR should pretty realistically match like your height in real life, because like when you map out the space of your room, you have it like you tell it where the floor is with like the controller.
Yeah, so it knows kind of like where you yourself
so
are
it knows
at.
how high the headset is, and that's the height of your head. So like I'm standing there like my normal height, whatever, and Vader walks up to me right into my face, and I'm like, oh shit. it's super imposing.
And he just like whips his dong out, and it has like a little helmet on it.
Yeah, he calls it dark helmet. Oh man.
What was I gonna say? Oh yeah, that's one of the other things I'll say. Like, back on the subject of like the waiting in lines for stuff, because when we were talking about the waiting in lines for movies and stuff, it was making me think, and I was like, dude, I remember when that was like the thing for Black Friday. Like, people would wait like days outside stores, and it's like that doesn't exist anymore either.
Thank God.
I know, but like you'd see people, they'd be on the news and shit that people like camped out at like Best Buy for like fucking 4 days and stuff just to get like doorbusters and stuff. And then now that's also just like the movies. It's like now instead of like opening at midnight and doing it, it's like at like 6 p.m., 7 p.m. Like, you can go to the store now.
The day before. Yeah. Like, and you don't want to get me started on Black Friday. Like, so I participated in the whole waiting in line for Black Friday thing one time. It was with PJ, because he's a bad influence. So we were both doing it. And that was when, did I get... I think that's when I got my PS3, actually. It was a Black Friday sale. My first PS3. I'm pretty sure that was when I got it. So yeah, we were just getting a bunch of electronics or whatever, and we did Thanksgiving, I think, with his family or something like that, or his wife's family, and we just did that afterwards, because no one else was really like doing anything. But like, my thing now is like, I don't have as much of a problem with people, if you want to do that over spending time with your family, if that's not how your family is, if you're not like super close, or you don't do like activities together, or really want to like stay like glued together for like the whole holiday weekend, I totally get that. I hate that retailers are making their employees work on Thanksgiving fucking Day, or just early morning on the day after, or midnight, like after Thanksgiving, and they've spent time with their family. Like, let them stay home if they want to stay home. I don't like that, like, this society that we have, this ultra capitalism has like created this thing where like Black Friday is becoming like a holiday that eclipses Thanksgiving. And I hate that. So I don't support it for that reason, and like I refuse to like go wait online or like buy anything. Like, my wife dragged me out to buy something on Black Friday like 2 years ago. We didn't go until like the afternoon on Friday, and like just walked into a Target and bought a couple of things that I think she already like paid for them online. She just wanted to pick them up at the store.
Yeah, just do like in-store pickup.
Yeah. I would rather just stay home and relax than even deal with that, because it's just crazier. There's more people out and stuff. But that's one thing, whatever. But honestly, my thing is, there's no reason, unless you really need to get something and you physically need to have it like immediately, like that early, and so you have to go like fight and brave the lions to get it. That's one thing, and I still think it's kind of silly. But if you have any patience at all and you can wait for the damn thing that you want, buy it online. The same sales go throughout the entire weekend now in most cases. Some stores may not, but like usually you go on their website, it's the same damn deal. It's going for the entire weekend, especially with Cyber Monday being a thing. The Monday after that weekend is when it's known for like having all the online sales. They start those early, so it's like Black Friday and Cyber Monday are the same thing now, and they all last for like a week or more. Sometimes they go into the next weekend now, like depending on the store. Just go online and buy your shit and have it delivered. Like, don't mess with all that. It's silly.
Well, dude, that's like what was blowing me away was when I was looking at like Best Buy's ad. They were saying that for like basically it was they released like earlier in November or whatever. They released like what their Black Friday ad was gonna be, but then in the ad it was saying that like every day in November they were gonna have like one of the items or whatever that say it was gonna be on sale for Black Friday on sale that day at the Black Friday price every day leading up to Black Friday when then everything was going to be on sale. So I'm like, oh, what's the point? Like, if you want that one thing, I'm like, you could go November 16th and get it, and then you're good.
Yeah. It's just silly. Like, again, like, it's not like it's all limited to that one day anyway, so why do people still... I feel like people got themselves trained that this is the way they need to do it, and they haven't paid attention to the fact that it's like movies, where now you can buy your movie tickets online, and you can get your reserved seats. Some people might still stand out in line. Why are you doing that? You know, you don't need to do that anymore. And same thing with Black Friday. I don't think people have realized yet, you don't need to do it the way you used to do it, because Black Friday has changed. People just seem to think that, oh, I need to get out there first thing to get all the deals. No, go online.
Yeah, I was like, we do go out on Black Friday, but we only go to Target, and we go to the Target that I used to work at, and it's out in BFE nowhere, and like, there's still a line, but it's like nothing, and 85% of the people that go to that Target are mainly there for like Apple Watches, iPads, whatever. And I'm just there for video games. So I go to that one, even though it's out of the way, whatever. I solely go to that one because I can get there at like 6:30, wait in line for half an hour, go in, grab all the games I want. Like last year, we were in and out in 20 minutes.
Wow.
Like, so
I'm surprised you got through the line that fast.
Yeah, well, it's because like there's not like a massive line. Like, yeah, because they have like a ton of. Usually they stock up like every register.
They staff
open.
Every register.
Yeah,
with all the people that want to be with their families.
Yes. Yeah. That are getting paid time and a half and got like sandwiches or something.
Oh, I hope so. I hope they are.
Yeah, they are. I was like, I used to work Black Friday.
Okay.
Dude, but one of my when I used to work Black Friday at Target, one of my fondest memories of working Black Friday was. There was this one dude that we called him Big Paul, and he was like huge, and like he straight up like he legitimately did steroids, and he was massive, and they would have him doing security and stuff like out, like he would do security like out in the parking lot and stuff, making sure that everyone's like in line and like doing shit, and then like when the store opens, he would be like, he's like, you know, like one of the rules is no running. You are not allowed to run in the store, and this
just fast walking.
Yeah. But I remember the one year, because I used to have to, like, do electronic, like, manage the TVs and whatever, and then, like, they move electronics, like, into kind of, like, the clothing aisle stuff, because electronics was strictly, like, iPads Central and stuff, and they'd have to deal with that. And, this lady had a cart, and then she started running, and fucking Paul, like, as she's running, there was, like, an intersection of, like, aisles and stuff. He came around the corner and, like, grabbed the front of the cart and like dead stopped the cart, and she like flipped like almost into the cart, like into the handle. He's like, "No running!" Like in her face. I was like, "Oh my god!" Like she almost like front flipped into her cart. She hit the rail so hard on that. God. He just dead. This like fucking like 300-pound dude just straight up like stopped the fucking cart. It was great. Funny. And then you'd watch people with like 2 fucking carts run up and take like 4 TVs. And then, like, half an hour later, come back and put 3 of them back. Like, and people would come wanting the TV, and it's gone now. And they're like, oh, I don't need 4 of this TV.
They should have, like, a limit, 1 per customer.
Well, usually there's the door. So that's what's funny. Every year you hear this. Even though it happens every year, I would hear the same thing. And it's hilarious because there's certain items where it's like, yeah, here's this fucking 65-inch 4K TV for $600 or something like that, something stupid. It's a doorbuster, and doorbusters. So yeah, here, if you don't know how it works, especially for like Target, I'm sure it's similar to other places too. For like the doorbuster stuff, they only get like 6, maybe 10 of those items tops. And
you have to be the first through the door to grab it.
Well, what you have to do is be the first in line. Yeah. And like usually what they do is they have tickets.
They'll hand out tickets for
those items. Yeah. And they'll ask you,
smart way to do it.
Yeah, they'll ask you like, are you in line for any of these items? And if you say yes, then they hand you a ticket. Yeah. And once those tickets are gone, you're not getting it. Like if you go into the store, you will not find it out like for you to grab because they are all in the back. And if you have the ticket, you have to like present it or whatever to them, and you have like X amount of hours. And if it's not claimed within the hours, or then it's like up for grabs for whoever.
Perfect, yeah.
But yeah, every year get the person
people
like,
go grab 3.
Well, they're like, "Where's this TV?" And they're like, "Oh, it's a doorbuster," and they're like, "Yeah." Like, yeah, no, if you didn't get a ticket, you're not getting it. And then they'd get all pissed off, and it's like, well, it wasn't in the ad. And they're like, well, actually, if you look at the really small print on page 27 at the very bottom in this paragraph in like size 3 font, like it says...
You have to scan the QR code on our website, and then it takes you to like this weird backwoods like website,
But,
that's funny.
But yeah, so I strictly go just like, I'll pick up like whatever, like this year we're going and there's like 3 video games or whatever that I want, and so I just grab those. And
which games are you getting?
I'm getting Borderlands 3, Resident Evil 2, the remake, and Mario Power Tennis.
Oh, I didn't
because
that one.
It's Mario Power Tennis is $30 along with Mario Odyssey and Breath of the Wild, which Nintendo games, especially first-party Nintendo games...
They're each $30?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, Nintendo games never
go on sale.
Yeah, never go on sale, so I was like, that's the cheapest you're ever going to probably see those at, so... I was like, I already have Breath of the Wild and Odyssey, though, so I was like, but we didn't get Mario Power Tennis, so I was like, well, I'm like, for $30, I'm like, I'm going to get it.
What's that for, Switch?
Yeah, for Switch, and then... Resident Evil and Borderlands I'm probably gonna get for PlayStation, maybe Xbox One.
I've got so many games that I have already bought and not necessarily downloaded. Some of them I have, but like I've got so many games on Steam from like sales over the previous like years that like now that I've got some time off, I'm like, I gotta play all these games, but I know that like there's only so much time. Like I can play like 2 of them maybe. So that's a struggle. And then fucking Black Friday and Cyber Monday, Steam is certainly going to do a sale, and so I'm going to probably end up buying more shit that I don't have time to play. So I've got such a backlog.
I know. There's like a couple games. Like, that's what's crazy is like I said like last week on the podcast, that was the first time I actually bought games on Steam since I don't know when, because just of consoles, and now I have a Switch. I'm like fucking one of those Switch snobs. It's like, oh, I'll just get it when it comes to Switch. So, but I was like, the games I wanted, I was like, they are coming to Switch, but not until like next year. And I was like, well, I really want to play it now. So I was like, I'll just buy it on Steam, I guess.
I tend to wait till games come to Steam. Like if it's something that comes in on consoles first, and then eventually it's inevitably going to come to PC on Steam, I'll just wait for the Steam like release usually, because I've got like more of my games now, more of my recent game purchases have come through Steam than anything else, partially for convenience because the PC that I play games on is just in my office at my house. Like I work in my home office on like a laptop for work, and then I've got like my gaming PC that's next to that like, so if I want to play games, I just finish work and just like roll my chair over and just start playing games. Or otherwise I have like technically a game room that's upstairs where I keep like my consoles. But I never go up there anymore because I've just like downloaded all these games on Steam, so it's just way more convenient to do it that way. Plus, I love Steam sales because like they do them all the damn time. Most of the games I've bought, like I probably would have had to pay even if I got them like used or like way later after the original release for a console. I'd probably be paying like $15-$20 for them still, like a year or 2 later. Whereas Steam, I wait like 6 months or 12 months maybe, and it's like $5 on sale. I'm like, You can't beat that. So I've got so much stuff on my PC now.
Dude, I was like, maybe if you move your Dragon Dildo collection upstairs, you'll have a reason to go upstairs more.
My Dragon Zelda collection?
Yeah, your dildo.
Oh, yeah.
Dragon Zelda.
Well, again,
what word did you say?
Again, for convenience, I like to keep it in my office.
True. Oh, man. I was like, I'm trying to think. Oh, I was like, on Switch, I picked up 2 games the other day because they were on sale, like, super cheap. One, I'm not, like, a super fan of yet, but the other one is very addictive. It's also on mobile. It's called Switch and Shoot. It's one button, which, of course, works great on mobile because you're just tapping.
Yeah.
But
it's perfect for your skill level.
Yeah, because I'm fucking stupid. But, the whole premise is, like, it's basically like a space shooter thing, you know, it's like top down, like Galaga, like whatever, you're like zooming through and like enemies are coming randomly. But the whole concept is,
can you make them come on command?
Yes.
That's good.
Yes, using your, you just gotta
little vibration.
Yeah, just wiggle your hand around until something goes off.
Okay. So the enemies are coming.
So yes, they're coming hard.
Okay. Hard and fast.
Yeah,
right at you.
Yeah, it's
right in your face.
Yeah, right towards you.
Okay.
And when you hit A to begin the game, your ship character is like automatically moving. It's like moving like left and right, like and the screen wraps and stuff. When you hit A button though, or tap or whatever, if you're playing on mobile, you shoot, but then you start moving in the opposite direction. So it's like, in order to, like, you can keep tap, like, to try and keep yourself in the middle, you have to, like, kind of, like, rapid tap real quick to, like, do this and, like,
shoot back and forth.
And you'll shoot forward to try and get people in the middle. But it's, like, kind of timing, like, when to tap and, like, when to, like, wrap. And then, like, enemies, if you miss one, they kind of stay at the bottom level with you and sit there for a second and then explode. So you have to, like, be far enough away from them to, like, not, like, you can't just keep missing enemies because they'll pile up on the bottom of the screen and you'll blow up and die. But then it's just counting, like, how many kills you get, and then, you just start a new game. So it's, like, really quick, but it's, like, I sat there and played for maybe, like, 40 minutes or whatever, just, like, going, I was, like, oh, man, didn't realize for you. I'm, like, just one more game. Yeah. I'm, like, dude, I almost had 60. I'm, like, come on.
In a way, what you're describing to me, in my mind, kind of reminds me of Defender, the old, like, arcade game, and Atari and stuff. Do you ever play that one where like the ship moves
Defender,
left to right, and then you can turn around and go right to left, and you're shooting enemies? Yeah, it kind of reminds me of that when you're talking about like, oh yeah, you shoot and then you turn around. Like you don't in Defender, you shoot and then you make yourself turn around when you want to. Yeah, but then you can shoot in that direction. But yeah, that's what I'm picturing when you're telling me this.
Well, and that's what's pretty cool. Like I'll have to show it to you too after, because what's pretty cool is, because it was made for phone, so it's like the screen, you can only, I wish you could play it like vertically, I guess, to like take up the entire screen, but because it's on the Switch and it's meant for mobile, it's just a little lane screen. But what they have on the left and right is like straight up like what you would see on like the side of an arcade cabinet and stuff. The art for it is fucking gorgeous. That looks like it would be on like an arcade cabinet, so to fill that blank space and stuff, I'm like, that's smart. Like that was really cool. And there's like a ton of options to like change like the color, so you can make it look like a Virtual Boy kind of, and like different like pixel options and color options and stuff, which is really cool.
That's neat.
Yeah, and the other one I picked up was called I think it's called Almost There, and it's which when the enemies are coming fast at you and you're almost there.
Well, you have to get there. That's gonna be the sequel. The sequel is gonna be I got there.
Did
it.
But it's like a platformer, and you play as a box.
Okay.
Sounds familiar. So
yeah,
it's right up my fucking alley. So I picked it up because I'm like, anytime I see something that's like kind of similar to like Negative Space or like, which you're not like swapping or anything. Besides just a box and it's like a platformer. But you could tell that this was also kind of like built for like mobile, the way it controls. And so I was kind of interested. I was like, all right, because like you can like stick to a wall. Like I don't like how it feels. I'd probably, if I was playing on mobile, I think it would make more sense. But the fact that it's like on Switch and I'm like using it, just feels weird because it's totally like feels kind of like janky-ish, kind of like mobile controls. So I'm not as much. It doesn't feel as fluid as I want it to. So, but I want to kind of play it a little bit more just to kind of see if it like gets a little bit like better, because I'm only in kind of like the first like section of like levels and stuff, but it has like the whole mobile, like you beat the level, and if you beat it so fast you get like 3 stars, and if you don't you get 2. I'm like, oh, well, I want 3 stars, so then I'm like sitting there trying to beat it as fast as I can.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, but I think that's gonna probably about wrap it up for this week. I'm like,
wait, I got more Star Wars stories.
Oh, I think you're
I don't
cut
think
off.
people have heard enough Star Wars.
George Lucas is cutting you off.
He's getting his lawyers like listening to the podcast now because I've talked about Star Wars more than the allowed amount.
Him and Kevin Smith are gonna come after you.
Right.
So I was like, I know where can our our listeners follow you? I know Brandon is told me before the podcast he's diligently pecking away at Final Fantasy Renaissance.
Yes. Yeah, we didn't talk about that at all this time, but yeah, still working on Final Fantasy Renaissance. We talked about that at length on one of your previous episodes. I don't remember what number that was. 5?
5,
maybe?
yes.
Yeah. So listen to that. You hear about my FF1 remake. You can check out my website, which is rengames.us. And that from there you can link to Facebook, Twitter, my Discord channel, whatever, and check out like my progress on that game. After Indiecade, I haven't worked on it quite as much, especially because I was really busy with work, and then I went on PTO now, and I've been trying to use I could use this PTO break in a couple different ways. I could be like working more on my game design stuff, or I could be catching up on games that I wanted to play, and I chose
the latter.
I chose to catch up on games I wanted to play because I don't do that enough. It's like I needed to treat myself, so that's what this break has been. But yeah, I'm still working on Final Fantasy Renaissance. I got another town released in a new build since Indiecade, since the last version that you saw. And I'm working on like the next one after that, next town, and a couple dungeons. So it's creeping along. Like I still put in a little bit of time, like every other day on it.
Awesome. And yeah, I was telling Brandon, I know Serge, I did the shitty Facebook beginning of the decade versus the end of the decade post, and Serge commented on my Negative Space shirt, and I am going to get more. I just haven't, like I said, it fell through before Indiecade and stuff, the person who I was going to get shirts through and stuff, so maybe Black Friday there'll be some deals through the place where I ordered them last time and stuff, and I can order some shirts. And I started working on Negative Space again. It took like a month break and stuff, so I've been working on it. So Serge, I will have a new build for you at some point to playtest. I know you're probably like, what the fuck's Negative Space at this point, but I was like...
People are getting very negative on Negative Space.
Yeah, I was like, I am almost done with the new world of levels and stuff, so I'm excited to finally be done with that area and start on another one, so... But, that's gonna wrap it up for this week, and, just as a reminder, cats don't mean to be assholes. They're just born that way.